Well, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It is an honor to be with you and be able to speak with you today.
Very good. It's a beautiful day here in LA, and I know it's in Canada. What is it called in Canada now?
It's
Or
still cold. Yes. We had a nice warm week last week and it's back to cold this week.
back to cold. Welcome.
Yeah.
We met you. You and I. We met at a retreat, a visionary retreat with Dr. Oleg,
Right.
and I liked what you have shared with us, with all of us. I like your mindset, the way you think. So I want to introduce you to my audience, and I want my audience to know more about you. Whatever you're comfortable with, let's start with being an executive coach. How did you get into that and why?
So, my career journey hasn't been a straight one. I started off as an occupational therapist. So, I actually did frontline clinical work. I would visit patients in their home initially. To start with, these were patients who were in motor vehicle accidents.
Okay.
And I would see them in their homes. And from there, then I went into the hospital. So I worked in the acute care, like big hospitals in downtown Toronto, working with some really sick patients there. And later on, I moved into more case management work, still working with clients, patients, and transitioned into then I would say non-clinical, more administrative. And this is where I started going into organizational development. So I was introduced to coaching. I was doing internal coaching in the organization, leadership development, project management. So I enjoyed that work. And from there, I transitioned into more of my own executive coaching. And it's sort of grown from there. I've just found so much, I really enjoy the work in executive coaching. I enjoy seeing leaders transform, like the growth that happens from the time that you start working with them to even like in a few sessions, you can actually see a lot of positive changes. So I really enjoy that because I've always had that, I've always wanted to help, like being in a therapy profession, it was a helping profession. So I've always wanted to help. But coaching gave me more of those tools to now empower people. So like even when you talk about occupational therapy is actually a very like enabling profession. So coaching in some ways is, that all encompassing way of putting it together. So that's my journey into executive coaching. And I would say, what really drew me was the WBEX Summit. And I think you're familiar with the World Business and Executive Coaching Summit. And I was just impressed by, the presentations, the information, and I had to dig deeper. And I started, taking more of courses, more certifications, and started working and just enjoying the work. And so that's where it's brought me. And when I do executive coaching, I like to look at it as from a holistic perspective, because a lot of like executive coaching, leadership development focuses on leadership skills, business skills. And in some ways, I feel, what's missing is that, the whole person, like the life. I've trained as, I've done my yoga teacher certification. So I bring some of those aspects into my work to really create a more holistic approach, I'd say, to coaching.
Wonderful. What I like about what you've done is you wanted to be an executive coach, but you didn't stay there. You just said, okay, well, let me improve. So you went through certification, you prepared yourself, and you made sure that you're ready before you start even giving coaching sessions.
Yeah, most definitely. I think if I didn't do the work myself to improve, to work on me, to improve who I am as a person, I don't think I'd be able to really impact anybody else or do justice to the work that I was doing. So for sure, I had to do my own work to be able to support others. And I'm still doing work. Like, I don't think I'd ever stop. I'm more of that lifelong learner. So I'm constantly taking certifications, other, workshops, reading, like I read every day, and network, just building connections. Because I find just even talking with you has been so, inspirational and so enlightening in many ways. And I think it's just amazing.
Since you're a mentor, probably you bring a different element to the coaching.
Right.
Being an executive coach because it's more involved. But what I like about this, and when you mention connecting and dealing with others, and I'm sharing this with you and sharing with the audience, there's a new element to mentoring. Every time you deal with someone, you interact with someone, these individuals are also your mentors. Because when you learn something from others, they can be really your mentors.
I think it's a ripple effect, like, because a lot of people want to change either their partners or their, children or their parents. But once they decide to really focus on themselves, then the change happens. And I can give you, like, with one of my mentees I was working with, she was an internationally trained physician coming from Armenia to Canada. And when I started working with her, she was in a very horrible spot. Like, so I was supposed to be mentoring her to find, work here, but it ended up going into a lot of the personal space.
Yes.
Because there were issues happening at home with the spouse. So, through working together, we were able to actually resolve a lot of that. And from, some of our sessions were very, like, she was quite upset, teary-eyed, things like that. And we moved her completely. She transformed through the time that we worked together very quickly to a very fulfilling relationship with her husband, to doing her certifications, to getting the certification here in Canada, having better relationships with the in-laws. Like, everything changed around her. And it was just magical in some ways to see that happen. And humbling too, like, in many ways, like, to hear when, some of the things that she says, like, she's like, oh, it's like the best person I could meet. And I'm very grateful for what you've been able to do. So that's very, it's very humbling to see and transformational.
It's rewarding and humbling, which is a good thing.
Yes.
So now you can also add a life coach in addition to being an executive coach. Have you thought about that? And probably that's something people need
Even though we say executive coaching, I think life is a big part of it. Because even though the issues are business related or their leadership behaviors, in some ways, the root cause is something on a personal level. So it's life related. So it's like a nice mesh. So for sure, it's all integrated. And a big aspect of executive coaching, I would say, is life coaching as well.
True. It's an interrelation and relationships, and you become really a relationship coach as well. But there is a limitation. Unless you set the boundaries from the beginning, you may have some life issues. I may be able to assist you in that as well. Otherwise, we're sticking to the business and how to improve, and which is true. You mentor professionals coming from different cultures to assimilate into the new culture you're in. How is that happening? Rewarding, or what is it?
It is very rewarding. It's empowering them in many ways. So these are professionals. So they were at the top of their game back in whichever country they're coming from, but now they're suddenly in a new country, a new culture. For many, English may not be the first language, yet they're fluent. But when they come here, it's almost like, starting from fresh, from brand new. So they have to start from ground up. And many of the jobs here in Canada ask for Canadian experience. So they apply, they're getting rejected, and their confidence drops.
Yes.
So a lot of times, I'm working with these professionals that have degrees, and they're qualified, they're extremely talented, but now their confidence is so low that they're not able to really even talk about themselves. Like, when they're going for interviews, they're not able to confidently present their own achievements. So I would say it's an empowering experience to really allow them to acknowledge and appreciate who they are and what they've done. And then once they have that, then they're able to now mesh into our culture here in Canada. But it's a very challenging process. Like, when we think about moves itself, when we're moving homes, that itself is quite hard. But now they're moving countries, no support systems. It's very overwhelming. So it's it's very gratifying to see them to succeed and go to that, whatever that goal it is they're trying to achieve.
Rejection is hard to deal with, and not everybody's trained enough to manage it well. How do you train them? What do you tell them?
Yeah, so I'm having this challenge now with one of my coachees, and my mentees. She's an internationally trained professional from back home, and she's been she's been here now for 2 years. So I only started working with her now, but she's been here for 2 years, and she hasn't found a job in her space, in her
Professional.
field. Yeah, so her self-confidence is quite low, and she sees everybody else and getting jobs, and she's questioning, why is this happening to me? So I actually just had a conversation with her today, and I said, we always get distracted by others. We always look at competition, and we feel like we get jealous, or where we ask ourselves, why is that happening to them? And why is this happening to me? Why am I not getting the job I want? Why am I suffering? So I said, let's try to reframe the questions we're asking ourselves, because sometimes, we might be asking ourselves like not good questions. When we ask ourselves better quality questions, we're going to get better answers. So I said, let's reframe some of these questions. So, why is this happening for you versus why is it happening to you? And also, what is here for you to learn from? What are some of the things that you might have to change in order to get moving, to get some momentum? So let's try to reframe what is happening in the mind. But so that's part of the process. And then I said, anytime you're feeling low, there's 3 ways we can change that state, because we're all human beings. We're going to go through that, low period. And with people in that situation, it's quite frequent. So I said, you can do 3 things. So one of them, very easy to do, is just your breathing. Change the way you're breathing. Because often when we get anxious or when we get upset, the breathing gets really fast paced. We're anxious. So I said, you can either take a deep breath, or you do something called, the alternate nostril breathing. So this is me bringing in
exactly
some of, the yoga world. Right. Yeah. So breathing is one way, easy way to manipulate the physiology happening in the brain. The other way is just do some jumping jacks, do 10 jumping jacks, go for a run, move. So the exercise, again, changes your physiology. So the hormones are changing your what's happening in your body, your mind. And the last way I said is through your thought process. So if you actually change the way you're thinking, reframe that thought, then the way you feel is going to be different. And this comes from the world of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a little harder to do when you're in those situations, but it's something that works as well. So those are some of the tips that I generally, give them, and it tends to work. Like a lot of my clients and my mentees will do the breathing to start with, at least. And
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Very impressive. Actually, you do have to tap into other sciences to be effective, a coach to your, I call them learners. I learned the term learners, or what people you work with. It's very impressive. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed is she worked on the mindset of these individuals. She changed their mental abilities and mental thinking. Plus, she told them these mistakes or rejections you are having, those are experiences you're learning from. So do not let them place you in a position where you are feeling down. No, learn from them and move forward and apply again with another place.
Yeah, most definitely. And mindset is so huge. Like, I like to stress more on the abundance mindset, because when we get into those modes, it's always scarcity, right? Like, why do I not have enough? Why am I not making that much money? Or why do I not have that job? But when we're in that scarcity mindset, we don't attract whatever it is we want, because we
You're
feel
negative.
nothing is ever yeah, exactly. It's always negative. Yeah.
So tell me, give me an advice to somebody listening here. They're not feeling lucky. They're not in a position to change anything at this moment in their lives. What do you tell them? What executive coach, life coach Shiyen Shu advises this individual or individuals?
In the coaching world, I think we would call those people sort of stuck, right? So it's hard to move. They don't know where to go or which direction. So I would say in that instance, it's recognize your emotions, recognize your feelings, however you're feeling, label them. So there's a term that you might hear in the psychology world, name it to tame it. So name the emotions that you're feeling, because a lot of the times I think we feel certain ways, but we just either push it away or we don't give it the attention that it needs. And sometimes just by recognizing, okay, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling fearful, it automatically calms your system a little bit. Now, after you do that, what I would say is, when you're in that stuck place, it's like your system is in that fight, flight, or freeze mode. So it's, it's not functioning to your optimum level. It's that instance when you're going to crash you're going to get into a motor vehicle crash and you're just focused on that one task on hand. So there's no way you're going to be able to do anything else. Like science also shows the peripheral vision is limited, right? When you're in that mode. So we need to move out of that mode to get unstuck. And now to move out of that mode, I would say, again, you can use those 3 techniques. So through breath, through movement, so exercise, and moving, mindset. And then mindset.
How do you, let's go further, a little bit further, you and I. Let's talk about their needs. How do we allow them to meet their needs without seeking the guidance of not the consultant? We always want you to be in position to offer something for them, but there must have some needs for them to get away from that stuck stage they're in. Have you reached a level where you tell them what to do?
When you're in that stuck position, reflection, see, again, it's hard sometimes because when you're reflecting from that stuck position, your imagination is again limited. So what you're reflecting on is limited. So
it's a total collapse.
In many ways, you're restricted, right? It's very small. Whatever you're seeing in with the blinders on. That's all you can see.
Good.
If for something quick, easy to get, I would say like physical movement is probably the fastest way, because working on mindset, working on thoughts takes a little bit longer, and sometimes you might need some help or books. There's some really great books too that they can read. A lot of the motivational speakers, like if you had to, YouTube it, that is an option. I would say when you're waking up in the morning, really see how you're spending your day. So when you
plan it.
Plan it. So when you're waking up in the morning, are you going on your phone and going on social media, checking Facebook, or what exactly you're doing? Because ideally when you wake up, for at least that half an hour to 1 hour, you don't want to see the phone or you don't want to see the screen, so that you are with yourself, you're able to direct your own thoughts versus the phone directing your thoughts, right? Because the brain has the organ.
Phone is the smarter one, huh?
Yeah.
The phone is the smarter one. We become dumb because we pick up that phone the minute we wake up. And
exactly.
It drives us, or it changes our day.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And you probably know already of the reticular activating system in our brain, right? The filter. So, whatever we are focused on, that's what it's going to get filtered into our brain, into our mindset. So, if we're going to be if we're on social media and we're looking for cat videos, that's all that's going to come up. And the same thing with our brain. So that's why it's so important to be focused on what exactly it is that we really want for ourselves or need, and then work that way.
So the brain is always active with too many thoughts. It's just, that's the nature of the brain. That's the way it functions. It's you as an individual that is enlightened enough to know how to focus your thought process by guiding yourself into a specific task.
Yes. Yeah, we have more than, 70,000 thoughts in a day. So the brain is nonstop.
Always nonstop.
Yeah, even when we're sleeping, the brain is working, right? Because when we look at the brain waves, there's different waveforms.
Yes.
They're just at different levels. It's constantly working. But now you want to make it work for you versus
by focusing that specifics. It's how you task it. I like it. I'm listening to the best of Shiyen. And I
Yeah.
hope the audience are also benefiting. I wanted to spotlight on her so this way you would know how talented she is and you would learn from her. At this time, I think we asked what I needed to ask. I just wanted people to know who you are and get the best of you. And I think we succeeded in doing so. I do thank you for coming, and we'll see you again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
You're most welcome.